Okay, hello to all. Now we have a panel of founder stories, the business model Menace. I have three panelists which are really, which are going to share with you a few tricks about building profitable businesses from entrepreneurial point of view, professional point of view, and investor point of view. Here is Albert Gajszak, CEO and CEO and co-founder of Menace. Darko Butina, general partner of daFUND, and Ervin Jagatic, group product manager of Infobip. Yeah, there is no furniture. No. They're going to. Yeah. Ervin, please come here. Yeah, I'm going to go there. Thank you. Okay. In Croatia, there is a lot of really good early. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. It's been a very long day, yeah. Okay, those three people are really successful at what they do. They invested a lot of their time and a lot of their knowledge into finding out the best ways to create successful startups. Okay. First, I would like them to shortly introduce themselves. Yeah. Okay.
So, hi, I'm Darko Butina from daFUND. We're a small venture capital fund investing predominantly in pre-seed and seed stages across Europe. So not only regionally, but across Europe. Otherwise, my background does not come only from the investment side. I have been in the shoes of startup entrepreneurs, have led also slightly larger companies with up to 500 million euro revenues and everything in between. So I've been also in executive shoes and so forth.
Hi guys, my name is Albert. I'm a 23-year-old entrepreneur here from Croatia. I'm currently running a business called Menace. We are a small but quirky company that designs and manufactures educational products like this one. We sell this as a subscription to parents, and the whole point of our business is to enable kids to become future engineers. It's basically something that I wanted to do as a kid because I was so sick by constantly being fed by, theory from books. I wanted to do something with my own hands. So I started playing with electronics, and when I was 18, I packed this all in a box and I did a Kickstarter campaign. Right now, this business of mine has 23 employees, $1.3 million of revenue. We have sold and manufactured 55,000 products here in Croatia, and we sell them all across the world, mostly to the United States and Europe. Thanks for having me. Okay, thank you, I guess.
Hi, my name is Ervin. I'm coming from Infobip, and just a disclaimer, I'm not a founder. I'm a group product manager, responsible for product-led growth. Before that, I was for 6 years at Infinum. Infinum is a product agency, and I was there head of client services and PM, and working with a lot of startups and various products. Before that, I was a software engineer, and I'm coming from, let's say, technical background. I finished computer science and faculty of engineering of electrotechnic and computer science.
Okay, thank you. This is a developers conference, and developers are creating startups, but it can be exciting, but also very challenging. And one of the first questions is, what came first, the product or the angel money? So, yeah, for all.
Well, from my side, from the investment perspective, definitely first an MVP. Not a full-blown product, but at least an MVP that's at least somewhat tested in the market. Somewhat meaning that the startup tried, or the founder tried to talk to the first customers, got the feedback, implemented that in the MVP, and hopefully even had the first success in the market. Now, why is that important, especially with software? Because it's relatively easy to get to that first product. From maybe ecosystem perspective, it can also be different. Obviously, people have, they tend to easier make a decision to jump into the founder's shoes if there's money available. But to get the money, as mentioned, usually MVP with the first market test is desirable.
So since you're looking at me, I suppose I should continue talking. Yeah, like in our case, I think I share a story with many founders here in this region, because like here in Croatia, especially in this whole region, it is and it has been very hard to get angel money before you have anything. You know, like you cannot just get, you know, like create a 12-page pitch deck, go to an angel and get the money, because nobody's going to give you the money. Like, for example, when I was starting with my own business, I was 18. Nobody would like give me the money back then, except for one crazy guy, but I already had a product back then. So in my case, it was definitely first the product. My story is, I would say, like a bit, you know, different, because at first, you know, this whole product of mine, which was like a do-it-yourself kit for teaching kids about electronics, it's something that started as a hobby. So at first, I wasn't really thinking of really like building a product, selling it to the market. I wasn't really thinking whether there was a market at all. I was just, you know, having fun. And then at one point, I started going to conferences like this one. And I started showing this. At first, it was like these conferences called maker fairs, where people who build like electronics come and show off their things. So I saw that people were really interested in what I was building, you know, and I started thinking like, okay, this might make sense. Then I started building an email list, then a Facebook page, because we didn't have TikTok back then in 2016. And then like at one point I was like, okay, well, I have validated that this might succeed, you know, but like there was just one tiny detail. I didn't have the money. So I went to crowdfunding, and then like I basically raised money there through crowdfunding, but like not for equity, but for like on Kickstarter, you basically pre-sell your product, and that's how this whole company started, you know. So definitely it was product before angel money, you know.
But you have an angel investor.
Yeah, I did get an angel investor eventually. This was like quite after we have validated the market and have started appearing in the media. I did get an angel investor. He's actually the founder of this company called Infobip, where this guy was working. So he was like my, you know, angel investor, but also a mentor, you know, that was helping me turn, you know, from a kid that was building electronics and having fun into someone who can lead a sustainable business. So yeah, I was really lucky to have an angel investor mentor at that point, because if I haven't, you know, it's questionable whether I would continue with this whole business idea. It sort of like reassured me at that point that it makes sense to continue pursuing this, because someone who has succeeded in like business has seen value in it, you know.
Thank you. Albert is actually, well, the most successful guy in crowdfunding.
Well, thank you so much.
In Croatia, yeah.
Thank you. Well,
the numbers speak to that.
We spent all the money, don't worry, yeah.
Ervin, what's your point of view?
Well, similar as Albert, so product first, money later, but of course money is a necessity, but it's not a secret sauce. You need, in order to be like, if you want to succeed, you need to have like a successful product, but money is simply a necessity.
Okay. Let's talk about business model. What's the biggest difference between momentums? The arrival of the first paying customer and the magical event of break-even?
Well, to be honest...
Sorry. Maybe first, Albert, since your startup is now making more than $1 million.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we do make millions. The only issue is that we also spend them, you know, to grow further. So I don't have any cash. But anyways, I can give you some of my knowledge. So In our case, like this first Kickstarter campaign was very important because, as I said, I was a broke kid, didn't have the money. And then like this whole crowdfunding campaign, it served at the same time as a source of funding, but also as a source of like market validation. Because up to the point when I did this Kickstarter, I wasn't really sure how many people are going to buy this. I had some means to measure this. Like I had an email list, I was talking with people, but like I did some research as much as I could when I was like with my 18 years of age, but I wasn't really sure like how big the impact is going to be, And up to the point where, we had orders coming in on Kickstarter, I didn't really know whether it's going to be successful or not. What turned out is that it was quite successful. We have generated more than $100,000 of sales on this Kickstarter campaign, which is really good, but also at the same time, it served as sort of like a market validation because I saw that complete strangers were buying this product, this electronics kit. We had actually, like most of our customers came outside of Croatia, and this was even more important for me than like the amount of money raised because I knew that like some complete strangers saw value in this product and have decided to buy it. And that's the point where I said, okay, I'm going to drop out of college and I'm just going to do this, Up to this point, I wasn't really so sure whether this was, an idea worth pursuing.
Thank you. Sorry, Darko, now it's your time to shine. When we talk about business models, I would like to emphasize before you start your answer, is that you actually don't just run the fund, but you're actually majority shareholder of the fund.
Of the management company.
Yeah.
But
So it's a big commitment. And when you see, what's your point of the biggest difference between those momentums?
Well, first maybe to answer the question regarding the business model and the break-even part. For startup, to be honest, and like Albert also said, the point is not in generating profit from day one on, but the point is to show whether or not the startup can actually generate traction. And the traction basically means acquiring customers, selling, and so forth. So the name of the game is growth of revenues. And if the startup can continue to fuel that growth, then investors are also willing to invest in the startup so that the startup can continue to lose money, not make profit, but instead sacrifice that profit to gain market share. So that's why the break-even part, usually with startups, it's good to have on the horizon and know how to get there, but above all, you want to grow as fast as possible. So,
sorry, but you're an investor. What's the calculation for you? Why you are so okay with burning the money?
The point of that burning the money is that you achieve higher valuation if the company has more potential. And you show the potential of the company with growth. So if the company is a high growth company, regardless if it's losing the money, but still if the model allows the company at some point to become profitable so that it doesn't spend as much for growth as it does in those first years of the startup, then you can generate the highest returns because such a company has the most increase in value, valuation, and with that, return for investor.
How long are you willing to wait?
Well, as is usual with with the most venture capital funds, the waiting period is quite long, to be honest. You measure it in years and not just in 1 or 2 years, but it goes into the range of 5 to 7 and even up to 10 years.
Okay, thank you. Ervin, what's your intake on business models? Since you saw a lot of startups grow with Infinum and now with Infobip?
So, on a question like when you have like first paying customer, and how can we relate on that? It's like a honeymoon period. So actually, you're validating your initial idea. Someone is actually willing to pay for a product, and that's like honeymoon period. After that, it's like when real life kicks in. So you need to answer a lot of questions: how we will scale, what's your technical debt, what's cost of acquisition per customer, what's lifetime value of customer, retention, churn, a lot of questions. until you reach your break-even point. But yeah, that's a long path, and it's like constant challenge to drive it and to go on that path. So yeah, that's my take.
How does companies like Infinom and Infobip help with that, in sense of fostering the growth of startups?
So in Infinom, I saw like a lot of startups in various stages. So from the initial phases where we were like ideating the name, and then drive the whole story until the first successful investment. And in Infobip, Infobip is also a startup, and the motto of Infobip's motto is we're just starting, and that's that's like a huge challenge to work at this kind of big company and have it like we're just starting. And also with product-led growth approach is something which what we are now establishing and what we are trying to drive faster in order to get the faster growth and to serve more customers.
Yeah, but from a technical point of view, we are talking about platforms, and I'm very interested in a sense of in software development, how much those platforms now are helping to drive the business growth faster.
So yeah, at Infobip, like platformization is a huge thing. So the idea is that we have co-creators, other developers, other companies, other startups who can co-create with Infobip, and that's a platformization. So that's what we are doing. We are opening Infobip platforms for everyone. So to help others to grow, so that also we can grow.
Albert, does that help you as well?
Like Infobip or revenues?
Infobip or other platforms?
Other platforms.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of initiatives here in Croatia and region that helps different startups, even the ones from the government, although we don't like the government in this region. There's quite a lot of money floating around. And I think this is great because, like, big companies have finally figured out that helping startups actually helps them, I'm really thrilled to see all of these acquisitions happening with Infobip. Not trying to fanboy you guys, but that is pretty cool, You could, on contrary, you could just say like, we don't care about startups and you could focus on your own revenue. I bet that some of those like acquisitions and activities aren't really profitable for you guys on the short run, but on the long run, you're going to succeed. And also you will look like good guys, and you want that. So I think this is good. So yeah, like this definitely is helping us. In the first year, I think it was crucial. Like I got a lot of funding, a lot of money from different startup competitions organized either by the government or different companies, angel groups. And this is great because you go somewhere, you pitch for a couple of minutes and you get like $10,000 or something if you're good. And this is crucial if you're a startup, especially if you're bootstrapped. And as I said, like getting angel money, getting VC money here in this region, it's not as accessible as it is in other parts of the world. So yeah, that did really help us. Also, on the other hand, I can see that I'm on a personal level very like I'm good. I'm like have a relationship, like a business relationship. I'm good friends with people in these big companies, and usually they're very willing to help. Like you need an intro, you need something, they can help you. They can give you like credits for like different services and stuff like that. So yeah, in other words, it did help us.
So acceleration through finding the right people and also platforms like Kickstarter and finding other ways of...
Yeah, I wouldn't say that really Kickstarter really helped us. I don't really feel they really care about us. Unfortunately, we're too small to matter to them, since they're like a US company. In fact, Croatia isn't supported on Kickstarter up to this day. So from day one, I had to like hack this. I had to go and find a friend with a US company just to go to Kickstarter. And I'm usually like asked once per week by a random person on Instagram and LinkedIn, like, hey, how do you do a Kickstarter from Croatia? So things are definitely not as accessible to, us companies in Croatia right now. But like there is a lot of support and there is a very positive trend. I can see a lot of things are like easier and better for startups now compared to like 5 years ago. And that's a very short, time span to really change anything.
Okay, thank you. Darko, you're really willing to wait for a startup to break even.
Not to
So,
break even, to be acquired.
okay. But how do you like them to accelerate their growth?
I mean, one part, sure, startup competitions and the rest is all fine. My advice otherwise to startups is not to do a lot of competitions, because competitions usually mean that you lose a lot of focus, which you could use to basically boost your business. Because if you boost your business, that's the biggest guarantee for you to get the money in. The best money that you can get in is the revenues, right? So if you don't, obviously, and this was mentioned, I mean, also Croatia and the other countries around in the region, and not only in the region, in Europe in general, there's more and more various government funding and so forth, which you can apply for and get. But again, the trick there is to really be picky about what you choose. So it's not in the end to just apply to tenders in order to get money in and not do anything about the business. So, but on the other side, if you do focus on the business, if you do show traction, then the money you can get can be quite diverse. You can get the money from investors. You can even think about getting money from other sources, such as if you've got customers that have long dates of payment, you can consider factoring if they're reliable, and. So there's a lot of different ways how you can actually finance the company, as long, again, you have success in the market, as long as you have revenues, and as long as you are growing those revenues.
Thank you. When we talk about startups, the essence of every startup is not just product, but also the team. And since the biggest trend right now is remote work, does it work for all startups? And how do you see a startup? Would you invest in a startup that is very keen to do like remote first work?
I mean, sure. For example, currently daFUND has 5 portfolio companies, 2 of them from the UK, 1 from Germany, 1 from Switzerland, 1 also from Croatia, Insider CX. And all of those investments were basically done remote. So the answer to the question is definitely. I mean, remote, I think that for most of us, or all of us, if it wasn't before a standard, it is a standard today. So there are certain things for which you still need physical presence, especially if you've got hardware involved, for example. That's absolutely, you need physical presence. But for a lot of other topics, from sales to marketing to software development and so forth, if remote works, sure, why not?
Thank you. Albert and Ervin, does remote work for all startups?
Yeah, I would say yes. Remote first is cool. I would say that hybrid is the best, but remote first works perfectly fine. Why hybrid is good is because face-to-face contact gives you some additional context about the situation, about the person. It's like everything is possible to do via Slack or online calls, but it's easier to have it, like it's faster to make things, especially in some kind of discovery or ideation period, to have everyone in the same room, like you will be faster. But remote first works. It's like proven hundreds of times, especially now after the COVID. It worked before the COVID, but COVID simply faster things up with the remote approach, but yeah, it works.
Albert?
Well, I have kind of like a love-hate relationship with remote work, you know. Like, I love the fact that you can all of a sudden employ people from all around the world, and you can like get access to talent that you wouldn't get before, and you can employ someone that lives like a couple of 100 kilometers away, all of a sudden, like this person can work with you. On the other hand, as he mentioned, like we're a hardware business, so lots of things that work for software businesses or software-only businesses don't work for us. For example, we have a manufacturing plant. You can't really like manufacture devices remotely. You have to be there. You have to like pack boxes. You have to like work on those machines and stuff. Like on the other hand, if you're developing hardware, also, you need some kind of a lab, test equipment, stuff, If you're building like firmware for this device, then you perhaps don't need to be present physically all the time, but you have to like go and test the newest version of the device. If you're building something on the web, then like perhaps you don't have to come to the office like whatsoever. In our startup, I don't force anyone to come to the office because I would probably be, like hanging on the wall if I did so. But on the other hand, like I leave this to the people like, well, if it doesn't affect your performance, work wherever you want to work from. And then people usually like figure that out for themselves. Usually it works in a way that like people that have to do something with hardware devices need to come to the office, and people that don't have to, they work in a hybrid way.
But does it work for a circuit math?
So remote only doesn't work for us, it doesn't, because like I would say like there are two main reasons for this. The first one is that like we do these physical devices, and the second one is that like we're a startup, so like we kind of are improvising and like figuring out things on the way. So it's more of like jazz, just hitting random notes compared to doing this in a like straight organized fashion. And usually when you do things in such a way, it worked better for us to work from the office, especially if you're working with like junior developers and stuff like that. Like you walk down the office, then you're like, take a look at someone's monitor, and you're like, damn, what are you doing? That's completely wrong. Otherwise, if this person was at home, they would probably lose like 2 hours of work, and then you would say like, damn, that's wrong. So like, yeah, it's kind of doesn't work, but yeah, we do it in a semi-hybrid, way. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem, man.
Okay, one question for the audience. Market conditions, and this is, well, startups usually don't think much about market conditions. They are usually focused on the team and the product and raising money. How many of you think that we are heading towards recession? Please raise your hands. Okay, so this is really realistic crowd. Thank you. Market
pessimistic.
Well, okay.
Realistic.
Can this outlook work for some firms' advantage, some startups? Will they be more successful in the next 18 months? That's a question for all.
Debt collection. No, just kidding. Well, if I may start, I would say like, if I can be a bit philosophical here, I would say that, big companies and very successful companies usually, get made in a crisis, This is like some kind of a big filter where we're going to see if something is really a good and viable and stable business, or if, it has been just some kind of a fad or some kind of a hype trade, I wouldn't consider and say that like this whole thing is going to help anyone, like every single business needs money, and if the definition of a recession is like people have less money because they buy less things, so businesses have less money, so people have less money, and it's some kind of a cycle. So this is not going to happen to help anyone, but it might like reset some things, and like it's sort of like healthy, and also some say it's like a natural cycle and life cycle of an economy. So I would say like this is probably something I was expected to happen, and we're probably going to be fine, so yeah.
You're on the business to consumer market, Infobip on business to business market. Does that change the perspective or the outlook or the chances?
Sorry, can you come again?
Yeah, CircuitMess is on the business to consumer market, and Infobip is on the business to business market. So maybe some of those choices can also relate to that.
It can be related, but like whole inflation and raising costs will impact each business. So, and businesses will need to cope with raising costs, and who will survive is the one who will be like the best in mitigating costs.
I think that perhaps like if you do if you have like a B2C business model, then like you are going to sense this customer behavior and differences in customer behavior much earlier compared to someone having a B2B business. You know, like an example, I completely saw changes in our conversion rates on our web shop and, you know, behavior of our customers compared to what was happening in the media. You know, I could literally see that when COVID hit, everyone's, you know, stopped buying. I mean, like, it's not that everyone stopped buying, but people, you know, were less willing to buy. But then, like, a couple of months later, when we saw that everything's going to be fine, people all of a sudden started, you know, buying stuff on the internet that they don't need, which includes our devices as well, you know. So I can see this, you know, happening to us, but not really to Infobip, because, you know, they have these B2B contracts, you know, like, they're going to be affected in the long run, probably, because businesses are going to go bankrupt or something, but, like, they're not going to feel it like us, you know.
But to be honest, I mean, recession, yes, but one needs to consider, especially because most of us here basically are connected with the software development industry. And digitalization is here. It's going to be even more accelerated. This has been shown also in the past few years. So even though there's going to be a recession, there's going to be there will be a lot of demand for digitalized services, including for software development and so forth. So to the question whether some companies will be able to use that, yes. From the perspective of startups, my expectation is, to be honest, that we will probably see less of inflation of startups and more sound business ideas actually taking ground. Because there is already today a bit less money, or it's a bit less freely distributed as it was before. So probably that trend will persist for some time, and I do believe that's a good thing. And as mentioned, I think that the software and software development industry in general, I think it's going to continue to prosper. So,
why do you think there's going to be less of inflation of startups, since there is the biggest amount of money in the VCs right now? I mean, never ever have we seen so much money in VCs. So, and there is even greater number of angel investors. So why do you think there's going to be less of inflation of startups?
I mean, there will not be an inflation of startups, right? There's going to be less ideas that get funded.
Okay.
Because, for example, in the beginning of the year or last year, you had a lot of startups that got funded at insane valuations with nothing to show, and. A lot of that vaporware is going to go away. Now, yes, there is a lot of money in VCs and so forth, but that VC money is also usually not in the hands of the fund. It's usually in the hands of the LPs, and then the funds actually make capital calls. And if the LPs don't have the cash to transfer that at the time at which they said that they will, then the VC funds don't actually have cash. And that's what you also see in the market. That's one of the reasons why there is less investments and so forth. But as mentioned, I think it's a good thing. And in the recession, I mean, if you're a startup that optimizes things, that makes processes more efficient, and you have chances, better chances even, to sell than you had in the market that's just going up and up and up. So.
Okay, you're from Slovenia and you live in Switzerland and you invest all around Europe, including in UK. So,
so not just the EU, UK, Switzerland as well, all over Europe, yeah.
Okay, do you see any difference in investment patterns right now?
To be honest, no. I don't see. There is a difference between, if you consider the quality of startups, but that's a whole different topic.
Okay. Traps on the road. Maybe Albert can enlighten us first. What have you learned so far to be careful of?
Like when building a business, or?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, businesses, that's what we talk about. Well, there's quite a lot of things, but I would say, like, if I need to pick one biggest trap that I had, I would say is that like, when I was starting a business, and actually before it was a business, when I was starting with my idea, you know, like I had this idea that I'm going to build this DIY electronic device that people are going to build, and it's going to be slightly different compared to anything on the market. My first reaction was to sort of like keep it locked and not show it to anyone, you know, because someone might steal my famous idea and then like turn it into a product that I'm going to miss the opportunity. Shortly, I saw that this way of doing things is like very wrong, because like if you don't show your idea to anyone, if you don't ask people if they like it, how are you going to know that anyone wants to buy this thing, you know? Like, and on the other hand, I also figured out that actually nobody cared about my idea, because like people don't care about ideas, they care about money, about profitable products. So nobody's really going to like care about your stupid idea because like you're a 16-year-old kid. So shortly I figured out that like if you want your idea to succeed, you actually need to talk about it as loud as possible, because that's the only way you're going to figure out if it's needed on the market. Also, there's the second effect that if you talk about your idea enough, then people are going to hear about it, and then like they will want to buy it, you know. That's the biggest thing I see when like people come to me, because like I have this reputation here in our small country of Croatia that I'm like the inventor. So people usually come to me with ideas like, hey Albert, what do you think about this idea? I'm like, did you know, like tell anyone about it? They're like, no. They're like, how do you know someone's going to buy it? So I would say like this is the first, you know, biggest trap. They want me to spill the beans more, or like I can let them talk as well.
Yeah. Ervin?
Yeah, I would say it's hastiness. So a lot of people are focused on building features, functionalities, just build. Instead of build, like, I think it's good first to learn, research, do due diligence, and then build before we spend our money or someone else's money or someone else's time. So do kind of discovery first, then build, then learn. There is like this common motto like build, measure, learn. I would go with learn, build, measure. So yeah, that's the common like because everybody are just focused on features and functionalities and would like to see how it works. It's like in human nature.
If I may expand on that, that's something that we definitely felt. Like feature crippling your product, it's such an easy thing to do. Because like naturally, if you're building the product, you're in love with the technology, you're in love with the product. You're thinking about all of these shiny features that you can build and do. And all of a sudden you spent like 12 months building some kind of a calculator app for your DIY phone, but nobody's actually going to care about it. So like, in other words, you know, this is something that I have to remind myself up to this day, it's time and time again to like, you know, think first whether the customer is actually going to want this before you go ahead and build it, you know.
It's like in baseball when they're throwing your balls and you need to be like ready for the right one, not hitting like everyone and then like...
It's easy to like go and take every single feature. If you have a product that's actually selling, you're getting these feature requests every single day, like they're shoveling them to you, and you can't build them all. You have to pick only the meaningful ones.
How do you pick those?
Well, it's easy.
I have actually an easy answer. Basically focus on those things that actually bring in revenues. Sell. If you can sell
revenue, like
if you can sell to a customer, then it's of interest for them, because basically they paid with the money and have shown they have voted that that's of interest for them. So that's basically probably the main trap that startups fall to forget about the importance of actually selling.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's true, because you are, as a startup, like, if you're a founder that's also a builder, you're in love with the product. But it's very easy to disconnect from the main point of the business. And, you know, I'm going to say it, like, in a very crude way, but, like, you need to make revenue. That's what a business does. If you don't have a revenue, there's no business, you know. The revenue is like the glue that sticks your whole team and everything together. If you don't have it, you have no purpose, you know. Like, so, yeah.
Sadly, our time is up, so I would like to thank you, Ervin, Albert, and Darko. One big applause. Thank you. And now? Okay. That's all, folks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.